So, Vrindavan Dham ki jai. So I was informed that today is the appearance day of Srivas Thakur, a member of the Panchatattva. Long before, well, sometime before the Chaitanya Charitamrita came out, or even the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, perhaps many of you know, there is a book put out, of course by Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya in 5 features. Srila Prabhupada thought it was very important for us to have. Basically, it was the Adi Lita 7th chapter where Lord Chaitanya is defeating the Mayavadis headed by Pakasananda Saraswati. So the Lord Chaitanya in 5 features. So of course Krishna includes everything, but that does not mean something Mayavad. So I don't know a whole lot about Srivas Thakur, but one of the chief associates of Lord Chaitanya, not an ordinary personality. Although he is Jiva Tattva, still he is not ordinary at all. Of course, Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself in his devotional feature. It's very interesting. Of course, I'm not saying anything here that everybody doesn't already know, but that's okay. Just as Lord Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, the all-attractive supreme enjoyer. So what does he enjoy? So it's described how Krishna, although he is the supreme enjoyer, the all-attractive, he sees his most confidential devotees, Srimati Radhika and her confidentes, that they're enjoying on a higher level than him, millions of times greater. And so he thinks, how is this? I'm the supreme enjoyer? How can that be? So I am perfect and complete. Otherwise, I cannot be the absolute truth, is it not? If there's something lacking. So I must also have this experience. So he realizes that he cannot have it as Krishna. There is one way to have it, if he voluntarily takes the position of his dearmost devotee, Srimati Radhika. And so he becomes irresistibly attracted to do that, and he does. And the manifestation of that is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is Krishna himself, but in the mood of Srimati Radhika, and also simultaneously taking on her bodily complexion of molten gold, and all of her ecstasies and sentiments, etc. The supreme all-attractive enjoyer is attracted to that. So the position of a devotee is nothing less than that of the Supreme Lord. In fact, the Supreme Lord himself is actually going for it. So even if we're after sense gratification or enjoyment, that's all right. Anandamayo bhyasat, we're pleasure seekers by nature. Where's the real pleasure? So the supreme enjoyer, the supreme attractive, he sets the standard. Who knows better than him? So what is he going for? He's going for unalloyed devotional service. Therefore, if we're intelligent, we should not be satisfied with anything less or other than. That is the idea. So when Mahaprabhu appears, he appears with different associates. Nityananda Ram takes there is Nityananda, Gadadhar, and there is Srivas. So like I said, right now I'm just a little hazy. I'm not recalling so much information about Srivas Thakur, except that he is one of the eternal prime associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay, so we'll go into the Bhagavatam. Actually, I was told text 34 and 35. 35 is on the board. We'll go through that, and then afterwards, after everything, I'll read the previous sloka and 35 also together. So, reading in Srimad Bhagavatam, from the 6th canto, chapter 7, entitled Indra Offends Brihaspati, and text number 35. Sri Vishrupa Uvacha Vigarhitam Dharma Siler Vigarhitam Dharma Siler Brahmavarcha upavyayam. Brahmavarcha upavyayam. Katam nu mad vidho nata. Katam nu mad vidho nata. Lokesh air abhiyachitam. Lokesh air abhiyachitam. Pratyak yashyati tachjishya. Pratyak yashyati tachjishya. Saeva swarta uchate. Saeva swarta uchate. Sri Vishrupa uvacha. Vigar-gitam dharma siler. Brahmavarcha upavyayam. Katam nu mad vidho nata. Lokeshir abhiyachitam. Pratyak yashyati tachjishya. Saeva swarta uchate. Please chant. Someone?
Sri Vishrupa uvacha.
Sri Vishrupa uvacha.
Vigar-hitam dharma-shilaya. Varcha upavyayam. Katam nu madhido nata. Keshar abhiyachitam.
I'm not recalling too much of them.
Yasyati kaschisya. Eva svartuchate. Vigaritam dhamma-shilaya. Brahmavarcha upavyayam. Katam nu madhido nata. Lokesha abhiyachitam.
Mataji's? Anyone else? Okay. Sri Vishrupa uvacha. Sri Vishrupa said. Vigar-hitam, condemned. Dharma sile, by persons respectful to the religious principles. Brahma-varcha, of Brahminical strength or power. Apavyayam, causes loss. Katam, how. Nu, indeed. Excuse me. Matvidha, a person like me, Nata of lords, Loka Ise, by the ruling powers of different planets, Adiyachitam, request, but Yakyashyati, will refuse, Tatsishya, who is on the level of their disciple, Sa, that, Eva, indeed, Swarta, real interest, Uchite is described as. Translation. Sri Vishwarupa said, O demigods, although the acceptance of priesthood is described as causing the loss of previously acquired Brahminical power, how can someone like me refuse to accept your personal request? You are all exalted commanders of the entire universe. I am your disciple and must take many lessons from you. Therefore, I cannot refuse you. I must agree for my own benefit. Srila Prabhupada's purports. Okay, I'm sorry. All right. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The professions of a qualified Brahmana are Patana, Yajana, Dana, and Pratigraha. The word Yajana and Yajana mean that a Brahmin becomes the priest of the populace for the sake of their elevation. One who accepts the post of spiritual master neutralizes the simple reactions of the Yajamana, the one on whose behalf he performs yajna. Thus, the results of the pious acts previously performed by the priest or spiritual master are diminished. Therefore, priesthood is not accepted by learned Brahmanas. Nevertheless, the great learned Brahmana Vishwarup became the priest of the demigods because of his profound respect for them. Om Ganeshwarnishya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksu Unmanitam Yena Tasmai Sikrave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master came and forced to open my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. In a sense, the spiritual master, especially for his disciples, takes on the post of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's a similar statement in the Gita describing how Krishna more or less does the same thing. In the 10th chapter, verse 11, it's described that Tesham Avena Kampartam Mahamagana Jam Chamna Nyasham Yatma Bhavastu Gana Deepena Basvataha. Just to show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Same business. Same business. And the spiritual master, if he is addressed as his divine grace, that divine grace means means the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Or in the case like of Srila Prabhupada, he can be described as the Supreme Personality of Servitor Godhead. So let me read this translation once again, along with the previous one. Let's see. Okay. Sukadeva Goswami continued, when all the demigods requested the great Vishwarup to be their priest, Vishwarup, who was advanced in austerities, was very pleased. He replied to them as follows. And then Sri Vishwarup said, O demigods, although the acceptance of priesthood is decried as causing the loss of previously acquired Brahminical power, how can someone like me refuse to accept your personal request? You're all exalted commanders of the entire universe. I am your disciple and must take many lessons from you. Therefore, I cannot refuse you. I must agree for my own benefit. So, Sri Vishwarup is showing great humility in this context, even knowingly that the pious credit, etc., is diminished by priesthood. But because of his profound respect for the demigods, he takes it on anyway. And he considers himself their disciple. Therefore, there's no question of refusal. It must be for his benefit, or they would not make this request. There are many similar things like this. Just to give a little comparison, well, just like Vishwarupa is very convinced of the exalted position of the demigods, so also great devotees fall into the similar category. He says of Naim Shiranya, when when Sutta Goswami arrived there, they elevated him to the Vyasa to hear from, because they knew that he was there, just now coming from what you might call the first public recital of Bhagavatam between Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit. He was in attendance. And so they also wanted to hear from him everything that was spoken and took place. But they also insisted that don't just repeat like a parrot, but we also insist that you also give your own sweet realizations. It is described that when a particular kind of parrot breaks the skin of a fruit with its beak, the nectarian sweetness that is already there becomes enhanced even more so, just by the touch of the parrot's beak. So in a similar way, when touched by the lips and realizations of an unalloyed devotee of the Lord, the sweetness that is already unlimited nevertheless increases. Materially, that doesn't add up. If something is unlimited, it can't increase. It's unlimited. But the spiritual nature does not play by the same rules. Even though it's unlimited, it can increase. So, when touched by the lips of Sutta Goswami, they had this confidence. He is bona fide, and therefore we want to hear from him. Jai, their lordships. Hare Krishna. So they could not make a request like that, please give your own sweet realizations, unless they were completely convinced that he was bona fide like this. In the human form of life, of course, we know that the main activity should be a tattva brahma jignasa. This is the aphorism in the Vedanta and also its natural commentary, the Srimad Bhagavatam, basically meaning that now meaning in the human form of life, this is the time to inquire into the nature of Brahman, or the absolute truth. In the lower species, we are also inquiring in our very limited and crude ways, but that inquiry is completely constrained to eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. One cannot even imagine anything beyond that in those particular types of bodies. Until one reaches the human form of body, then one has an extra facility. And that extra facility is the empowerment to inquire into the nature of the absolute truth. So if you're not utilizing that extra facility, you're still in the animal kingdom, despite having this particular form. If you simply think that being civilized means using a computer to assist you in your eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, you're simply a more royal edition of the animal kingdom, a more sophisticated style of animal life, that's all. But human life begins with the tattva brahma jignasa. Even if not understanding in the beginning, at least inquiring in the right direction. That is the threshold of human life, not before that. So only in this human form of life can we make an ultimate solution to all the problems of life. Of course, they are innumerable, but they can come under 4 basic headings, and that's birth, death, disease, and old age. These are problematic, because our true nature, the nature of the soul, who we really are, the self, najayate mniyate vakadachin nayabhuva vapicha nabuya joni sasto yam pradano nahanyate hanamane surire. For the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. So that's our true nature. So therefore, these things like birth, death, disease, and old age, they're problematic. They're contrary to our real nature. And we suffer them because we identify with this temporary tabernacle that we inhabit, both gross and subtle. So in the process of bhakti-yoga, it teaches us how to act, again, in our constitutional position. And by being reinstated in that way, in our constitutional position, gradually it comes above theoretical acceptance and understanding and onto the platform of realization, gradually, in degrees, as we progress. Things like causeless knowledge and a sense of actual detachment from the world should be developing in your person. We can see in our own lives and in the lives of other practitioners, sadhakas, other devotees around us, this is hands-on, experiential. It's not just something in a book. It can be experienced. And this makes our faith in Krishna consciousness more solid, more fixed. Srila Prabhupada thought it was very important that we have the philosophy, along with, of course, descriptions of the Lord's all attractive features and pastimes and dealings, etc. Just like he could have gave us Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat first, but he didn't. He thought it was more important that we had Chaitanya Charitamrita, because along with the Lord's pastimes, the philosophy is mixed in there. The intelligence has to be satisfied, has to be convinced. Otherwise, we'll be hesitating and in the mode of doubt and hesitation. We'll be thinking that, well, it all sounds very nice, it sounds very beautiful, but how do I know it's real? How do I know it's true? So therefore, philosophy is necessary. Once Srila Prabhupada made one statement that astounded some devotees, saying that philosophy is for the neophytes. Well, wait a second. Isn't it the opposite? Those who are not philosophically astute, they cannot comprehend philosophy or understand it. Aren't they more advanced, the ones who can? But then Prabhupada explained that on the topmost platform, you don't have to be convinced. You're already on that platform. So we have so much garbage that we have to have washed off. We have to unlearn before we can learn what is proper. It goes hand in hand, side by side. So the philosophy is actually necessary. And it's not that when one gets very advanced, he just sits around reading Brahma Samhita all day and leaves the Bhagavad-Gita gathering dust on the bookshelf. No. He loves this knowledge, all of it. All the knowledge is coming from Krishna and his devotees, like this. There are many tapes where Prabhupada is reciting Gita slokas very melodiously. He loved this knowledge, all of it. Just like Prabhupada told us, you can read the Gita your whole life repeatedly and get newer and newer realizations. Of course, these realizations, they have to be confirmed. We have a system of checks and balances. Generally speaking, threefold: Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So all our reference points have to be transcendental in nature. Therefore, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. We check them against each other to see whether or not they concur or are in agreement. If they are in agreement, then we can feel safe in accepting the validity of any particular description, statement, etc. And if they're not, then at the very least there's room for doubt, if not outright rejection, like that. This is our system of staying safe, staying on the safe side, especially in the neophyte stage. Check all three sources against each other. Of course, in one sense, they are one, you could say. Because, well, to be considered a bona fide guru or a bona fide sadhu, you must speak on the authority of Shastra, must. Otherwise, you're to be rejected. And the Shastra itself has many teachings of who? Gurus and sadhus. So in that sense, they are one. But again, just to be on the safe side, we don't rely on our tiny, limited, meager intelligence and experience, but we check all three against each other. Do they concur? Are they in agreement or not? In this way, we're kept on the safe side of things like this. So Vishwarupa is putting aside the consideration, although he knows priesthood may diminish one's pious credit. Doesn't matter. I'm like a disciple to you demigods. How can I refuse? I was thinking that there's one pastime where the gopis, well, different personalities, were informed that Krishna has a headache, and the only remedy or cure is the dust of your lotus feet. I believe it was Narada Muni was told to approach different personalities for the dust of their feet, for the cure of Krishna's headache. So he approached some brahmanas, and their reply was more or less, "What are you, mad? We're supposed to put our heads at the lotus feet of Krishna, not the opposite way around. We'll go to hell. No way." So he was getting replies like this. Then finally he came to the gopis, and they immediately said, "Here, take. And he said, "Aren't you afraid of going to hell by putting the dust of your feet on the Lord's head? Who cares? We go to hell. Krishna has a headache. Hurry up, take it. Help him, relieve him of his headache." The devotee he puts Krishna first above everything else, even if it means he has to go to hell. It doesn't matter. So most of us are not on this platform as of yet, but at least we should be seeing that as the ideal, that which we should be shooting for, hoping to be elevated to one day. Or just like Jamunacharya says that if I ever think of previous sex life again, then immediately my lips want to curl in distaste and spit at the thought. So we should be seeing that as ideal, but we're not. Most of us are not on that platform just as of yet. But at least we should be seeing that as the ideal, So when one fully falls in love with Krishna again, or reawakens his original Krishna consciousness, love for Krishna, prem, that will be there. That will naturally be there. The only way to have a distaste for sense gratification is to gain something better, something higher. Or as we say, gain the higher taste in Krishna consciousness. So, especially in the beginning of our devotional career, we may get a large taste of the ecstasy of Krishna consciousness. But after some time, we may have to work harder for that taste. We may have to work for it. Krishna wants to see. Otherwise, ordinarily it's said that lip service is cheap, talk is cheap. What are you willing to actually do to achieve this? What are you willing to forego to achieve this? That is real testimony of your position of sincerity or not. That is the idea. Even we form our relationships in this world, again for the purpose of enjoyment. Anandamayo bhyasa. We are enjoyers by nature. But all of our relationships in this world are on the false bodily platform, and therefore they cannot fully satisfy. What are we really looking for in our relationships? A perfect reciprocation. Whether it's perfect reciprocation between lovers, between husband and wife, or between parents and children, that kind of relationship, or between very close-knit friends. We're looking for that perfect reciprocation, in whichever humor it may be, we're really wanting to come to the point where we fully feel within the core of our hearts that we really desire, really genuinely desire, to give ourselves wholly to the other party. We want to come to that point. Usually we don't make it that far. But even if we do, then everything becomes terminated at a certain point because we all die. And so it doesn't get it. It doesn't quite get there. But there's nothing wrong with this. We all have an original relationship with Krishna. And the idea is to revive that. And then there will be complete satisfaction in that relationship, because Krishna is the perfect reciprocator. He is of course, he is the source of all sources, cause of all causes, and he's also the source of all ras, or relationship, which necessarily means he's also the best in them. We don't have to blindly accept that. In the pages of the Bhagavatam, especially the 10th canto, there are many examples. How he's the best lover, how he's the best child, how he's the best friend, etc. And you can bring some other candidates up, put them side by side. We don't think they'll measure up with Krishna. First of all, you won't find out enough information about other personalities as you will find out about Krishna. Just in the books that Srila Prabhupada translated alone, there's so much information about Krishna. Just like in the Nectar Devotions, described that Krishna has so many different kinds of flutes. And they're described, different lengths, different amounts of holes. The cowherd boys like the long one, this and that. So much vivid detail is given. It's amazing. We have more information about Krishna than we know about ourselves. And therefore, although we don't necessarily think ourselves better than others, we are in a more advantageous position. That's a fact. But we don't hoard it for ourselves. We want to distribute that. And that's Krishna's mission also. He wants to see that all the conditioned souls who have strayed away come back home, back to Godhead. Like that. So the devotee, he assists the Lord in his mission. The devotee is not a separatist. He doesn't have a separate mission. He takes up the mission of the Supreme Lord. And in the Kali Yuga especially, most of us are not so qualified. But just like in an emergency situation where there is a larger police force necessary, sometimes not fully trained men are given a badge and given authority as extra policemen. So in the Kali Yuga, we may not all be all that qualified, but nevertheless we're deputized in a sense to assist the Lord and his exalted devotees in bringing others into the fold of Krishna consciousness once again. We know that tape where Prabhupada famously describes that this Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition on your mind. Rather, it is the natural energy of every living being. And with a little so-called practice, it is revived once again. So-called practice. Just like Prabhupada is a simple example of the child practicing or learning to walk. He may stumble a little bit, but after a little practice, he walks very nicely. But only because that innate ability to walk is there within the child. If it wasn't there, he could practice forever. He'd never come to the point of walking. But it is there. Therefore, he comes to the point of walking. Therefore, Krishna consciousness is already within us. It's simply been forgotten or covered over. So this is a methodology of sadhana bhakti, vaidya bhakti, of reawakening that which is already there. It's simply been forgotten or covered over. Otherwise, we could practice forever and nothing would happen. But we see in our own lives and in the lives of other practitioners, sadhakas, that it is happening. We're getting a sense of detachment from the world, we're getting causeless knowledge, and we're becoming more and more attracted to Krishna, and the desire to attain the status of unalloyed bhakti, like this. So Krishna himself and all the great devotees of the Lord afford help to us. We're not alone. We should never lose hope. If we're alone, yeah, forget it. You'll never make it. But you're not alone. You have the whole disciplic succession helping you. All the Mahajans, all the great personalities that we associate with through Vani or sound vibration in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and other literatures. And Krishna himself, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They're all helping us. Therefore, there's no excuse for being hopeless. But we have to show that we want that help. We have to make an endeavor to take it. Just like we have to delve into Srila Prabhupada's books on a regular daily basis. Our own private study, of course, but in Also like this, in class form, in association. We cannot just leave them on the bookshelf gathering dust and maybe dust them off once a week. We have to actually open them up. They're not going to open themselves. We have to make a little endeavor, show that we want. And then Krishna will reciprocate. Tesham satata yuktanam vijantam piti bhorvagam didami buddhiyogam tam yinamam priyantite. To those who are constantly devoted to worshiping me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So he gives the understanding, the intelligence, whatever is required. You just muster up a little bit of devotion, a little bit of desire, you show, and then Krishna will take care of you. No problem. Or Lord Chaitanya would sometimes say, I preserve what they have and I carry whatever they may lack. As long as he sees that you're trying to give it your all, then he will preserve whatever you have and carry what you lack, like this. So this should give us great assurance. The Lord assures us, so why should we feel unassured? And in this way, take further steps forward in what Srila Prabhupada would sometimes call our progressive march back home, back to Godhead. Actually, that's the only kind of progressive march. Other kind of walking is simply traversing the path of repeated samsara. And what happens in the middle of samsara? Disease and old age. Birth, death, disease, and old age, repeatedly. But now we're walking a different path. Prabhupada says like that. You should feel, even when you're walking down the street, you're not walking the same path as others. You're walking a different path. You're not going around in circles. Sometimes this going through repeated samsara is described like unintelligent children who go to an amusement park and they get on all the rides and they just go around in circles. They go around this way, they go around that way, but they're not making progress, they're not going anywhere, they're just going in circles. So if you're making the rounds from the highest planet down to the lowest and everywhere in between over and over again, where's progress? That's not progress. So strictly speaking, progress means on the path back home, back to Godhead, breaking out of the material world. Of course, some may try to criticize it. Oh, you're just a bunch of escapists. You're trying to escape reality. No, we're escaping to reality. If I ask you, sir, who you are, what will you say? You'll give me some description of your body. You'll say, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm black, I'm white, Chinese, Indian, whatever. I'm a computer technician, I'm a carpenter. So many things that have nothing to do with who you really are. So who has the real life? Sometimes people try to scorn the devotees like that. Hey, Hare Krishna, why don't you get a real life? No, sir, why don't you get a real life? So at least ourselves, we should be coolly and calmly convinced of this. We have the real life. Everyone else is thinking they're their body. To make one example, just as a simple mathematical example, I don't know how you would do this, but let's just say you assume that 1 and 1 is 3 instead of 2. I don't know how you would do that. Let's just say you did. Even if you calculate it perfectly after that, the balance would never tally, nothing would come out right that you were trying to figure out. Unless someone in knowledge actually pointed out, no, you started off with a false premise that 1 and 1 is 3. That's not correct. It's actually 2. If someone pointed that out to you and you understood it, then you could go back and correct that false premise and then everything would be correct. So we start out initially thinking, I am this body. But that's not right. It's wrong. I am a product of the material nature. No, you're not. I remember being taught like that in elementary school as a young boy. You are a human being, which is part of the animal kingdom, and a section of which we call mammals, and the human being is the topmost mammal, and that's who and what you are. But that's not true. And then later in life, more illusions are added on. You are a consumer. Pay attention to all the advertisements and then go out and buy everything. And so many heaps of ahankara, false ego, are added on. But there's also real ego, Krishna Nichadas. It begins there. And there are so many more details added on as one becomes more and more realized, and eventually realizes one's original eternal relationship with the Lord. So this is what Prabhupada would sometimes call this Krishna consciousness is the perfect theistic science. Wait a second, if it's theistic, it can't be scientific, or if it's scientific, it can't be theistic. But real spiritual life is a science. There's hypothesis, there's experiment with the process, and along the way there's results. So it's a science. It's the greatest science. Without pursuance of this science, all the other sciences don't really have much meaning in life. Just like Veda means knowledge, all the material sciences, everything is there. But the main science is of self-realization and God-realization. That is the main thing. That will take us beyond the scope of this material world once and for all. No more birth, no more death, no old age, no more disease like this. So that should be, the devotee should be enthralled with these descriptions in Srila Prabhupada's books and enthusiastically live his life like this. Living Krishna. It's described sometimes that I'm not going to go on too much longer, that the Vaishnava sannyasi sometimes doesn't seem quite as austere as some impersonalist sannyasis. But that doesn't mean he's less advanced. Because he's living in Krishna, it's not necessary. Or even for devotees in general, it's described that if one is sincerely living the life of the devotee, then he's no longer under the ordinary laws of karma. For every action, there's a reaction. He becomes free of that. We do get, it's described, a tiny token reaction, a fragment of what we would have had ordinarily coming to us. Instead of having our head chopped off, maybe we just cut our finger or something like this. Or even if something horrific happens to us, if we weren't a devotee, perhaps that would have had to happen 100 times, but we're devotees, so it only had to happen once. Why? Because it's not necessary. We're properly situated. So this is Krishna's mercy upon us. So even if you have good karmic reaction, strictly speaking, it's not good, because you have to remain in the material world to so-called enjoy that. What is the use? So in one sense, it's like the devotees are doing nothing at all because their activities are non-reactionary. But obviously we're doing things, we're acting. But our activities are transcendental. I was fortunate some years back. I came to Vrindavan and I met Lokanath Swami here. I was with the Padayatra America party at that time. I couldn't find anybody to take care of the deities for me, Nitai Gaura Sundar, so I brought them with me. You can imagine with their paraphernalia and everything. And I came here to Vrindavan and I saw Lokanath Swami and I told him I brought the deities with me. You brought them here? I said, well, Maharaj, they go everywhere else. Why not Vrindavan? So he says, well, look, I'm going on a little tour in Maharashtra with a small group of devotees. Why don't you come? So I went with Maharaj. And we were, I'm trying to remember, I think it was somewhere in Pune. We're doing a program. Of course, there's big kirtan, there's artik. Maharaj speaks for a while. And he's asking the different foreign devotees to say a little something, and I'll translate into Marathi. So he asked me to say just a little something, and I said, we're on this padayatra, and it seems like our walking is just like anybody else's walking, isn't it? You put one foot in front of the other. What's the difference? But this walking is in the devotional service of the Lord. So this walking is going back home, back to Godhead. It is not ordinary walking at all. Although externally it may seem the same, it is not at all. So I think I should probably wind it up here. It's just kind of unnecessarily taking up more time. I'll stop here. If there's anything to add or anyone has any questions or comments, we can try to entertain at this time. Anyone has anything at all? Okay, is there a mic or something so we can hear him? Or you can just borrow this one?
Hare Krishna. How does a spiritual master reduce his piety just because he takes the position of a priesthood? You can explain that.
I mean, as described in the verse here? You're talking as described in the verse? Well, this is more or less describing like a priest. Sometimes the priest is called spiritual master, but he's not generally sometimes taken so seriously. Whatever yajnas you're doing, you take on some of the sinful reactions of those who are doing it on their behalf. So it's no wonder that sometimes learned Brahmanas are hesitant to do so. Of course, a real spiritual master, he wants to take people back home, back to Godhead. And although it's described as a spiritual master voluntarily, knowingly accepts, if necessary, there are some karmic reactions from those disciples in order to clear their slate so they can, start to make some tangible advancement. He's willing to do that. He's willing to do that. And Krishna would take care of him. Krishna would take care of him. So ultimately, spiritual master, of course, means giving one Krishna. And ultimately, unalloyed Krishna bhakti, Krishna prema. Giving one the facilities to rise to that, to our original state, or swarup-siddhi, perfection of our constitutional position. Otherwise, there are so many different yajna performances, and they are not necessarily to bring to that point. Anyone has anything more? Anything else? So, thank you very much for being a little patient here with me. A little spaced out this morning. All right, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.